Hello everybody, so today is going to be a serious topic and I've been keeping this for about 5 years and I feel like it's time for me to actually talk about it, and also because I feel like it's very informative to a lot of people because it just dawned on me on how much a lot of people don't understand emotional abuse or like why a person doesn't leave someone who is abusive. Because when I was going through this, I had a lot of friends that I would like go up to and try to talk to them about it, and they just wouldn't really like understand it, and they would always like, I guess I felt in a way judged about it. I felt like they didn't understand, and they would just, ask me questions like, then why are you with him and all this stuff, because like it is so much harder to like leave an abusive relationship, and a lot of people don't understand that. So I felt like I needed to talk about the important like key factors of all of this, so it's going to be very informative. So I also apologize if it's going to be a really long video, and I also apologize because I'm going to be like looking down a lot because I wrote down everything on paper because I wanted to make sure I get everything that needs to be said, like all the important key factors of knowing, basically of knowing like an abusive relationship and what to do when you're in one, stuff like that. So I'm going to go over that with you all, especially, just talking about my experiences. And just so you all know, I'm not a professional, I'm just talking about my experiences and what I did, and I guess like the important red flags to know about like an abusive relationship. But before I get started, I know I'm gonna like make a little short summary of my relationship through high school with this person. So I know a lot of people, if they do like watch my videos, a lot of people that I went to school with probably know who I dated in high school. They most likely do know who I dated in high school, or like friends that know as well. So if you all know the person, I just want you to say, I just want you all to like please respectfully keep his identity a secret, because I don't want anybody to really know. Like if you know who he is personally, if you know his name, and you've known me through like high school, you know who I dated, just again respectfully keep his identity to yourself. I don't feel like it's right for anybody to personally like post his name, who it was, like in the comments or anything like that, because I just don't think that's right, and I feel like it's more, again, like I just want you all to just basically respect it in general. So anyways, moving on. Anyways, I'm going to go over important things on why I wanted to inform you all of this topic, and it's very personal, not only because it dawned on me that a lot of people don't really know about it, but I wrote down the reasons why, and I actually learned through my experience of why it's so very important, because I did a lot of research on it and I wrote down the important stuff that you all needed to know. That is crazy. 81% of parents think that it's not an issue when it is a really huge issue. This is also why I mentioned that it is very important that I talk about this, because, that is really crazy. Like, 58% don't know how to help the person, 57% just basically cannot identify, like, abusive behavior. And okay, so the first point that I want to go over specifically is, what is dating abuse? Okay, so basically, as I have written down here, dating abuse is a pattern of behavior one person uses to gain and maintain power and control over their partner. So abuse comes in many forms, but it's not just physical. There is multiple. There is digital abuse, there's also physical abuse, you got sexual abuse, there's financial abuse, there's even emotional or verbal abuse. So it's literally a lot of different types. Okay, so before I go on to more information about the whole dating abuse, I want to talk about a brief summary of my relationship in high school. So basically, I've been in a relationship with this person in high school for about 2 years, but I was off and on with this person for about 5 years, because he would basically like disappear and come back like out of my life like constantly. and it just kept happening and happening. And I know it was like, I don't know, I was just looking like a clown because I was just being with this person. So clearly I was a clown back then, so don't judge me. I know it was like pretty stupid of me to like go back and forth, but the reason why I was doing that was because, you know, he was my first love. And obviously when you're like really in love with someone for the first time ever, it's really hard to get over them. So people that have ever been in love, you know, with their first love or whatever, I'm pretty sure y'all understand how hard it is to let go of their first loves. Anyways, for the first year of high school when I was with this person, everything was fine. There was like nothing going on. You know, it was just like a regular relationship that people would expect from a relationship. You know, we were just like, I guess like it was a lot of cuddling. You know, there was like nothing wrong. Everything was just perfect. But then the second year came up and things just started going crazy. There was just a lot of jealousy, you know, not just from him but from me as well. You know, it was like a lot of jealousy on like my part. But the only reason why I was like really jealous was because I didn't really trust him because something had happened with this other girl or something. But that's like a long story. So I just had like trust issues with him. So I couldn't really like trust him. So once I didn't trust him, like everything just started, you know, falling apart because, you know, without trust, a relationship obviously can't work. So that's basically what happened. And there's just a lot of yelling, a lot of manipulation, a lot of lying constantly. And we were always like back and forth. You know, basically like we would, you know, get back together and then we would break up, and it was just like a whole bunch of issues. And it was just super hard on me too because I felt like I was going crazy in school because like I couldn't really like talk to anybody about what was going on because of like his behavior. Like it was just a lot. Like he would just manipulate me constantly and lie to me, and then he would like yell at me. And even worse, like I could not leave him. Like if I left him, it was like a huge no-no to him, like literally. But if he would leave me, if like he could basically come and go as he pleases, and that was okay for him to do. But if I were to basically leave, it was definitely a no-no for him, because I'm going to tell you an example, and I guess I kind of feel like it was a threat, and I should have known this back then when I was a teen, but I didn't really know anything about it. So basically there was just one time where I was at Walmart with his friends. His friends got off to go to Walmart because they needed to go get batteries or something. So I was in his car and we were like, I guess, talking about the relationship. I forgot how it went because, I mean, it was like years ago. This was back in high school. So basically I was in his car and we were talking, and he had told me, because like at this point, like I was already fed up with the relationship. I wanted to leave already, and he knew that. So he didn't like want me to go because I've already tried dumping him before and he just refused. He would basically use manipulation tactics for me to stay. Like he would be very sad about it, so I'd feel bad about it, and I just feel guilty, so I just stayed. And he already knew that like I just didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. So basically when I was like back with him and I was in the car, he basically told me that like at one point he wanted to get me pregnant. Like, yes, you heard me, pregnant, so that way, you know, I will be his and like I won't leave him. Basically he basically said like something along those lines. I don't clearly remember, but I truly do remember him saying that he wanted to get me pregnant so that way I wouldn't leave him. And that is really crazy. And at the time I just ignored it and I was like, okay, you know, all stupid, whatever. Like I didn't like talk about that ever again. I was just like, okay, like that's really weird and that's very crazy, you know. And I just thought like it was love. I was like, oh, like he really loves me like this much that he wants me to stay, you know. Like that's another thing that I want you all to know. When you're being abused, we get it confused as love. We get blinded and we think that this person really, really loves us and really cares about us, that they want us to stay, that they'll do anything, you know, just to keep you there with them. But that is a huge no. That is a really red flag. If it's going to be like that, girl or boy, whatever, you need to leave out of that relationship, because that is not healthy and that is very creepy. So that's a very important thing that I want you all to know, because that's scary. And when I look back at it and I'm just thinking to myself like, girl, that's crazy, like why did I stay? And another thing, like this still exists like, even years later. Like he just doesn't want anybody to have me, like at all, because when I was like back with him, he would basically talk about like how nobody can have me, and no matter who I'm with, I won't ever feel safe. You know, he would basically just tell me those things, and you know, like he just didn't want anybody to have me, period. up until high school and up until like the past years that I've been with him. You know, I forgot how old I was, like 22, 21, you know, going through it. And it was just a lot. It was crazy. And this also happened in recent years, a few months back. So yes, he just doesn't want anybody to have me. People that are like emotional abusive tend to be very possessive. So you gotta be aware of that. Okay, so anyways, moving on. Back when I was in high school, things started getting like really worse. There was a lot of yelling involved. Like there was another time that I experienced. I was actually on my way to a choir concert, and I guess we had like this huge argument. I don't really remember. I just remember that I had like left because I was like super pissed at him for something, I don't know. So I had left and I was like trying to walk so I could like go to my choir concert or whatever because I had to be there. So basically, according to him, I slammed his door like super hard. So he got super upset. He started yelling at me and basically cussing me out and just saying like, you know, get the F over here. Why the heck did you slam my door? I take you everywhere and all this stuff. It was just like pretty bad. Like he was just cussing me out and it was just a horrible situation. And there was like a girl walking in front of us and I'm surprised she didn't like turn around and stop it, you know, because it was really bad. I mean, if someone were to see it in their perspective, you would have been like, okay, this needs to stop. But this person that was like in front of us, I'm pretty sure she heard everything. She didn't even like stop it. And this is why I say if this goes on, if you hear anybody, like I know a lot of people say like I don't want to go into like the problem of like what's going on, but if you see something like this, it's very important that you at least try to stop it because it could become physical, and that is something that you don't want to happen to anybody. Because it was a really scary situation because I'm surprised it didn't get physical because I remember like him, I don't remember exactly, like it's not too clear because it's like years ago, but I just remember where like he was just yelling at me like get the F over here, you know, like as if, and he was like walking fast, you know, like as if he was gonna like, you know, do something. So that is why I say y'all need to be careful. Like if you see something like that going on, it is very imperative that you stop it because it could lead to physical abuse, and again, you don't want that happening to anybody. Okay, so a lot of things just basically happened in high school and it was really horrible. I just had a hard time dealing with it, like a lot, because I felt really alone because I guess like his friends kind of thought that I was like really controlling and really crazy, and I just hated the fact that they thought that because they wouldn't really see his behavior, and that's what really sucked because he's so good at manipulation that everybody believed in him. Everybody believed his manipulation tactics, and it was horrible. So I kind of felt like left out and alone, and I couldn't really like talk about it with anybody because they just wouldn't like believe me and stuff. And I feel like as well as like a teacher of his, because like I would go into the classroom with him and I guess we would have like arguments, and like his teacher would usually like stare at me as if it was like my fault, you know, like of what was going on, but he really didn't know that it was like, you know, him. So that's why I felt really alone because like, can you believe that like even a teacher would just look at me like really weird, thinking as if it was like my fault that this is going on and that like I should like leave him alone and stuff, which wasn't, because it was like him that was like making me seem like I was really crazy and controlling because of like how I was. And let me tell y'all, if a girl or guy or anybody in general, if someone says that, oh, this person is crazy or this person is controlling, let me tell y'all, we do not get crazy for no apparent reason. There is always a reason for our craziness. It was really hard and I just felt alone with it. There was nobody that I could really talk to about it because most everybody will obviously believe him and take his side. So I couldn't deal with it. I just didn't really trust him, especially like when it came to like other girls, because I guess you could say like he was very like chiflado, I guess, and it was just super hard. Like, I don't know. Okay, so basically how we broke up, we didn't really break up in high school, but it was more of like a disappearance ghosting act that he did, because basically what had happened was I found out that he was hanging out with this girl which I didn't really like at the time in high school, which I don't care about admitting that now because I mean we're grown adults or whatever, but at the time I just didn't like her in school because of certain reasons. So he basically knew that I didn't really like her, and he just still, you know, decided to, I guess, like flirt with her. And like one of his friends would tell me like he would like flirt with her and stuff in class, and I really liked it because he was like the only friend that would tell me everything and like the truth. So he would basically tell me like how chiflao he would be with like this other girl. I know I'm talking like a little bit of Spanish, but he was like basically flirting with her, and like his friend told me, and basically my ex at the time got mad at his friend for telling me like, why did you tell her, you know. So obviously he was lying about a lot of stuff. So I know I'm getting off topic. Anyways, basically what happened was I found out that they were like hanging out, and I found out because she posted it on a Facebook post, and I was like pissed. So I tried contacting him, and I clearly remember because it was on July 4th in the summer. I contacted him and I told him, hey, like I saw this happen, you know, like basically explaining like why are you hanging out with her, you know that I don't like this person and stuff like that, like you know how she is. And so basically he didn't reply. He just completely blocked me off of social media and on his phone and text. Like he just completely blocked me everywhere. So I didn't hear from him about 4 years. I basically went to counseling because I couldn't deal with like the grief of it. So I went to counseling for, well, not 4 years. He didn't talk to me for about 2 years or so, something like that. I don't really remember. So I went into counseling, and I had like this behavioral guy come in because that's when they diagnosed me with depression and anxiety because I was going through the whole situation. So basically what had happened was the head of the behavioral center came in, and they're like talking to me, and I just started crying. Like I just broke down and cried a lot. Like I don't know, like he was literally talking to me like normally, and I just started crying. I don't know what happened, but I guess I just had like a breakdown because it finally like hit me and everything. So basically the counselor was explaining to me that what he was doing was completely like manipulation, gaslighting, and he was just telling me that this person that I was with was emotionally abusive, you know. But obviously I didn't believe it at the time, because that usually happens. When you're a victim of abuse, a lot of the times we tend to not want to believe it, and we again mistake it as like love and stuff like that. So that's basically what had happened. I was in denial, and that usually happens with the victim that is being abused. So I was in denial for a while. I didn't want to believe it, you know, and stuff like that. But they were just trying to explain to me about like how he was just abusive. So after that, I was seeing a counselor, and I was like getting better, you know, everything was, you know, going good. I was getting better. And then he would like come back in and out of my life like several times, and then I would just like basically I guess like I would basically just go back to how I was before. I don't know if that makes sense. I was like getting better, and then I just went down all over again because he came back into my life. And that's the thing with him. He would constantly ghost me all the time. He would come back whenever he feels like, disappear whenever he feels like. It was just so much. And then whenever I would like move on into like a new relationship, he would try to come back because he just didn't want anybody like with me, period, like at all. Okay, so that is basically what I went through like all through high school. Now I want to talk about the behaviors of verbal abuse or emotional abuse, whichever you would like to call it. And while I'm talking about the important key points, just know that there is many different key points of behaviors, but I'm not going to talk about all of them because it'll be too long. I'll just post a link to them, and I'm just going to explain the ones that I personally experienced with examples of, you know, what happened. So one of the behaviors of verbal abuse or emotional abuse is basically putting you down or calling you names. And yes, that is really hurtful, and it does happen because when I was with this person, he basically called me stupid, and he would just say, "You're stupid," and would literally laugh about it. So like I just felt bad about myself because, you know, I felt like I was just like worthless, you know, basically. So that is like a sign of like, I mean, that is basically like a behavior that they do. They really tend to like kind of like humiliate you and just basically put you down. Okay, so the other one is using online communities or cell phones to control, intimidate, or humiliate you. And basically, yes, I'm gonna tell you this. It is very, very intimidating whenever they send you like a text message, because this was what was going on with me. I was constantly being like harassed. He would constantly send me really, I guess, like bad photos and just overall like texting me like a lot of things through my phone. And I would like block the number, and then he would just send more. Like he would just text me from like another number, and I don't know how he was getting like different numbers. I guess it was like from apps and stuff. So I felt like really intimidated and scared, and I just felt like, what if it was like a threat? Like what if this and this happens? What if he exposed those photos and stuff like that? Like it was really scary to me. Basically it's more like a manipulation tactic when they do this, because they want you to be afraid, so it puts intimidation on you. And I guess it's kind of like a threat as well, you know, because it's very scary, because you don't know if they can use what they have of you as like revenge porn. And that is something very, very scary, because, you know, you don't want anybody to like see those things. But I'm going to tell you all, in case that ever does happens to anybody, there are specific laws against like revenge porn. If they decide to post your photos or videos like online or whatever as like a revenge porn kind of thing, there is laws against that. So you could definitely like do something about it. Because when I was like afraid of all of this, I actually contacted loverespect.org, which I'll put the description down below. Basically I contacted them and they helped me. They basically sent me like links just to be prepared, so if that were to ever happen to me, you know, if I were to be like exposed like that. And like each state has like different laws, and it's very informative to know this. So I'm definitely gonna put the links down below to loverespect.org. And also I was really thankful that a friend of mine who is a cop you know, gave me more like stuff to know, more information on like what to do with these laws. Oh, and another thing, it's not only just like revenge porn that they have laws, it's also cyberbullying too. Now it's a good thing that we live in an era where there's laws against not just like revenge porn, there's also like cyberbullying laws as well, and like, you know, for harassment as well. So that's a really good thing. Girls or guys, whichever, never ever allow anybody to record videos of you, and do not send any photos to the person that you are with, no matter what. And this is very, very important, because sometimes the abuser can again use it as revenge porn. So you need to be very, very careful. And I don't care like how much you love this person, don't ever do that. It's very bad. Someone that loves and cares about you would respect you, because I'm going to tell you this. When you're a victim of abuse, they tend to manipulate you. If you tell them no for recording, or tell them no to sending pictures or whatever, they tend to manipulate you by making you feel guilty if you don't do it, and they make you, and then, or like they basically just make you feel guilty for not doing it. They'll either be upset about it or they'll be sad about it. But who cares? Like, let them. Just do not ever like do that, because it is a very horrible thing that they can do either way. So anybody that's like manipulating you for photos or videos, they do not care or love you or respect you in general. And also, girls, if you say no to like sexual activities and they refuse to listen to you, literally do something about it. Because, you know, throughout my experience, I regret not doing anything about it. But when you say no and they still keep going, you better like do something about it, because that is wrong. You know, if somebody really truly loved and cared about you, they would respect you and they would listen to you when you say no, because consent is everything. The next thing that I want to talk about is blaming your actions for their abusive and unhealthy behavior, because this always did happen to me when I was with this person. I always felt like it was always my fault, and it just like drove me crazy, like constantly. So all his like behaviors that he would do, I would just basically feel like it was just my fault, like all the time. So whenever he would go days without like contacting me for like, you know, 3 days or whatever, and I'd get upset about it for him, you know, he would like use up excuses such as like work and stuff like that. And if I would like try to call him out on his behavior, he would like blame me for it and say, oh, I'm this and that because you're doing this, you know. And I just want you all to know that if that happens, it isn't your fault. And I know, like, you start thinking that you're crazy, because I used to think that. I used to think that I was, like, really crazy and all this stuff, but I wasn't. He was just really good at, like, manipulating me and all that. The next one, which is really, really important: threatening to commit suicide to keep you from breaking up with them. And yes, oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how important this is. Whenever it comes to someone that is threatening to, like, kill themselves if you leave, this is very, very dangerous behavior. And this is something that you would need to talk to your family or friends about. Mostly your family, you know, get them involved and tell them what's going on, because that is very scary. Because through my experience, this happened to me. I tried leaving this person before, and when I did, he started, like, yelling at me on the phone, and he started, like, punching things in his, like, car, and just basically saying that he needs me and he felt like killing himself or whatever. So that's basically a threat, and that is a very horrible thing to do, and they do this as a manipulation tactic so that way you will stay, and that is very dangerous. So always make sure you, like, go and tell, like, a family member or something if that ever happens to you. The next one is they act excessively jealous and possessive. I cannot express this enough how possessive my past relationship was. My ex was, like, extremely possessive. Again, nobody could have me, like I said earlier. So that's another emotional, verbal, like, behavior that goes on. And the next thing is using gaslighting techniques to confuse or manipulate you. And this would happen to me a lot. Again, it was a lot of constant lying, a lot of, like, gaslighting. I felt like it was my fault. I also felt like I was going crazy, because he would say some things and then he would tell me, oh, I never said that, because that happened. Because there was, like, one time I basically wanted to fix the relationship because it felt like, you know, something was wrong. So, like, when I tried to talk to him to get down to the bottom of the relationship of what was wrong, you know, because again, he would go days without talking to me, and, like, I understood, like, everybody gets busy with college, with work, you know, but he would constantly use that as an excuse. Like, he would go 3 days, 4 days, you know, like, without talking to me, or, like, just ignoring me in general, and that was just not cool. So, like, I tried talking to him about it, and he yelled at me and literally said, like, does it look like I give a shit? Like, straight up. And then I was just, like, so heartbroken at the time, and I was like, oh, you said, like, you basically said this to me, like, did you not hear what you just said? You basically said you did not give a shit about it or whatever. And he would basically be like, what? Like, I never said that. Like, I swear to God, I never said that. And, like, at the time, like, I felt like I was crazy. I was like, did he really say that? Did he not? Like, I don't understand. Like, I swore I thought I heard him. Maybe I'm just, like, hearing things. And you start questioning yourself. And that's what sucks, because, like, you start just going crazy and everything. So, yes, they do use a lot of manipulation and gaslighting tactics, a lot of lying. So, basically, those are the key points of verbal abuse or emotional abuse. Now, I want to tell you all the reason why it's important to know this is because emotional abuse can lead to physical if it starts going into an unhealthy path. And you don't want that to happen, because obviously, you know, physical abuse is something that nobody should take lightly. So if you're not too careful and you just continue on to the relationship, you know, emotional abuse can sometimes just literally lead to a physical abusive relationship. So always be aware. And not only that, but verbal abuse can also cause emotional pain and scarring, and I'm literally going to tell you the truth, it really does leave a lot of scarring and a lot of pain, because it took so long for me to get over the whole mess of, like, everything. It was just a lot to take in, especially because I was constantly doubting it and all this stuff. It was just really hard for me to deal with it. Like, I just felt so small, and I also felt as if I was like a puppet. Like, literally, it was just me on strings and him just, like, dangling me along and just, like, moving me like a puppet, because he had me in control, and he just, you know, basically had power over me, which wasn't okay. Anyways, emotional abuse can be so bad that you start believing what your partner says. You begin to think you're stupid, ugly, and worthless. Yes, because like I said, whenever they tell you things, you start to believe in them, and you're like, okay, this is true. I'm stupid, I feel worthless, I'm ugly, because that's what I was dealing with. I was just going through a lot, and that's also why I apologize a lot. I don't know, like, if anybody noticed, but I constantly say I'm sorry a lot. I always constantly say I'm sorry. My boyfriend knows this. I'm always like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, because every little thing I think it's my fault, because that's how it was. When I was with this person, I was always apologizing for things that I did not need to apologize for, because clearly it wasn't my fault, but I felt the need of apologizing. Moving on, severe emotional abuse can be as powerful as physical abuse. Over time, it can contribute to low self-esteem and depression. You may also develop anxiety, guilt, social withdrawal, or loneliness, and there's more. I hope I said that right. Loneliness. And there's a lot of other things, there's basically other factors that have like a huge impact when it comes to emotional abuse. Yes, anxiety is one of them, because I know that once I went through the whole like relationship thing with him, I started having a lot of anxiety attacks, and I was like really depressed, and I felt scared of others. Like I felt like I couldn't really trust others, and I was just always like to myself and always just lonely and alone, because I was just so afraid of like going through that like all over again, and like the whole trauma of it, like it just stayed with me and just scarred me for like a long time. And like I'm not gonna lie, like I'm still like building myself up again and all over again, you know, stuff like that, because basically he would take so much from me. Like he would take pieces from me that I was just losing myself. Like I was constantly losing myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't even know what I liked or my hobbies. I was just so focused on him all the time. It was always pleasing him, giving him what he wants all the time, and it was just so hard on me. So like I wouldn't really know anything about myself. So I'm like starting to build up more and more of myself. I'm starting to love myself more, because at the time I didn't love myself, and I was just, you know, there. Like I didn't love myself fully, you know. I was just, you know, thinking that I was worthless, and now I'm like loving myself, and I'm just moving step by step. Okay, so moving on, the most important thing that people always ask me: why do people stay in an abusive relationship? And I always got this a lot from friends. Why did you stay with him? Blah blah blah. And like it would always annoy me. So I'm gonna let you all know, and this is the reasons why I stayed. Basically, point is, like I said, I didn't love myself like fully. Like, I just didn't love myself fully, so I just like stayed with him, and that's really it. Literally, I just didn't love myself, you know. I didn't value myself like I should have. I value myself more, and I like respect myself more and love myself more, that now I know like what to look out for, and now I know how to be treated. But like with all this, like at the time, again, I didn't love myself back then, so that's also why I stayed. Not only that, fear. I stayed through fear because of the threats of him wanting to kill himself, and I was just afraid in general of the consequences of me leaving, because I'm a YouTuber and I'm a streamer and I'm all over social media, and he has told me that I'm very easy to find. He has also told me he knows where I live. I'm always at home. He already knows what I do on a daily basis. So I was afraid that he would just basically stalk me, come to my house, you know, or something that would happen. Because he would tell me things like, there was one time where he basically explained that at one point he wanted to literally kidnap me. And when he told me that, when I was dating him at the time, when we were talking about the first time we broke up, or a couple times that we broke up, he was basically telling me at one point he still wanted to kidnap me or whatever, and that's what is super scary to me. So I thought about the consequences of that. I thought about, what if I leave him? What if he comes to my house and like tries to kidnap me or wherever I go? Because he knows what I do on a daily basis. He knows that I'm constantly at home, you know. So I was like really scared. I was afraid that I was going to be stalked online. Again, I'm all over the place, and he told me that I'm easy to find. All he has to do is search me up on Google. There I am. So that is why it scared me. That's also why I felt like deleting all my social media and YouTube and Twitch. But I loved Twitch and YouTube so much that I just couldn't do that. So that's why I was very scared to leave him at the time. Moving on, this is why other people don't leave an abusive relationship. Again, like I said, fear. They are afraid of what may happen if they decide to leave a relationship in the person. If the person was being threatened, if they left, they may feel like they're just not safe, you know. So that's why, again, like just like me, I was afraid. I felt like I wouldn't be safe if I had just left. Next one, some people stay also because they believe that abuse is normal if they don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. Another one is embarrassment. It's hard for them to admit that they are being abused. They are afraid that family or friends will judge them. The next one is love. they hope that their abuser will change, and let me tell y'all, they do not change. It's very rare if they do change, if they go and get therapy, if they go and get help for themselves, but they will not change, because I thought that I could like change him. I thought that he'd be willing to change, and he didn't. So yeah, they don't change, and that's why we do stay, because you know, we're like so like in love with them. We just think that they will change, but they don't. The next one is social peer pressure. This is another reason why they stay. If your abuser is popular, it can be hard to tell their friends for the fear that no one will believe them, or that everyone will take their abuser's side. That's how it was for me in high school. Everybody will take their sides. His friends will take their side because, again, he was really good at manipulating people. He had good manipulation tactics. Nobody really believed me, so I kind of felt so small and alone. It was really hard to deal with. So pretty much that's another reason why people stay in a relationship, because they fear that other people just won't believe them. The next one is keep a record of all harassing, abusive, or inappropriate comments in case you decide to tell the police or get a restraining order. And yes, guys, always screenshot your evidence. I always keep my evidence. I still have all my evidence from everything, because it is very important that they know and that they have all the evidence. So make sure you always save your evidence. Even after you are done with the report, save your evidence. It's very important, because in case something else happens, you know, they'll have evidence there. So it's very important to save all your evidence. Very important. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Do not delete those messages. Save them. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is talk about self-care. Whatever you do, if you feel the need to talk to a therapist or a counselor, go for it, because therapist and counseling really does help. Go talk to a therapist and a counselor. I cannot stress that enough. It has helped me 100% of the time when it came to all of this, you know, all my fears and all that stuff. It has really helped greatly. And another thing for self-care, like I said again, know that their behavior isn't your fault or wasn't your fault. Accept the fact that it was never your fault, that there was clearly something wrong with them, but not with you. Just accept it. Don't ever blame yourself about it. Next one is basically spend time with family and do physical activities as well, like jogging, dancing, yoga. You know, do some sort of hobbies like music, streaming, even YouTube videos, just like I'm doing. There's a lot of great ways you can do hobbies, you know, to keep your mind off of it, like do art, writing, whatever form works for you, just do that. I will also post more on what you can do for, you know, self-care after going through the whole emotional abuse. I'll put the links down below. And also, you all, I want you all to know that when it comes to leaving an abusive relationship, once you leave that relationship, please block them on all social media, you know, block their numbers, you know, do whatever it is you have to do so that way they don't contact you. And especially because if they have friends that are friends with him, they'll usually check on you and report to him about what you're doing, because sometimes that does happen. So even, like, it's sad to say, but if you're friends with them or whatever, but if you could trust them, like, okay, keep them. But like, if you can't trust them and they're really close friends with him, delete their friends too, because like I said, they'll check up on you and they'll tell him what you're doing. So always definitely take them off of social media. Adjust your privacy settings. It's very important to do this, because obviously the abuser can look you up and just look out on your information, where you're going and all this stuff. So keep your stuff very private. It's hard for me because, like, I'm a Twitch streamer and a YouTuber, and I'm like all over the place. So again, like I've spoke to someone on loverespect.org. So again, guys, so just so you all know, before I end this video, because I'm practically done, I used loverespect.org. It's a really good website and it's for free. You can call them or contact them via chat, and they can tell you can basically talk to them about what's going on. Even if you have a friend that's going through this and you have questions, you can go and ask them, because that's what I did when I was going through the whole abuse. I talked to them, and they helped me through it. They told me what I could do. They told me the laws. They made sure, you know, that I knew these laws, what I could do specifically and stuff like that. So it's a really good website, and it has a lot of information on what you need to know about, like, domestic violence and stuff like that. So I will put the link down below in the description box. It is super hot in here, and I don't want to, like, get sick because I was already at the hospital. So that is basically it in this video. Comment down below if you have any questions. Anyways, bye everybody.